Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Not Everybody Needs a Podcast with your host, Mackenzie Rencher. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm honestly having a hard time focusing right now because I guess not this morning. Well, I guess technically early this morning, Taylor Swift announced her 12th album, TS12, The Life of a Showgirl. It's really taking me back to when she announced the Tortured Poets Department. And I was confused by the name, and I was like, what is this album about to be about? Because this title is just not resonating with me. So Life of a Showgirl, I'm immediately like, you know what? We cannot judge it because the Tortured Poets Department ended up being one of my favorite albums of hers. And I just know that this is going to, if you guys hear laughs and giggles, just know my kids are having the time of their life upstairs because I got them a playroom. I'll talk to you guys later about that. But I don't think you'll be able to hear them, but if you do, enjoy the giggles. But anyway, like the title, I'm like, I wonder what this is going to be about. It's kind of giving Do It With a Broken Heart. If you guys are not a Taylor Swift fan, then you don't care, then period. But there's so many Easter eggs that went into this. And the fact that she's going on the New Heights podcast is just so iconic. She never does interviews. She never does podcasts. So the fact that she's going on her boyfriends, it's just like, today really took me away. Now, as far as Easter eggs go, if you're a Swiftie, you know what I'm talking about. If not, then I guess I can explain it. Basically, from the beginning of time, it's been like 15 years of Easter eggs at this point. She's always dropped Easter eggs, and if you put it together, then you can see when she's putting out an album or whenever she's putting out a single or whatever, and they always lead to something. And so this has been a long time coming of leading to her 12th album. It's too much. It's just too much. Like, I woke up and I my jaw dropped. And also, they dropped a little reel on the New Heights Instagram, and it already has 90 million views, and it was only up for like 3 hours. I was like, sorry. It was like 30 minutes when I checked, and it had 9 million views. So I don't even know what it's at now. It's been up for a few hours, but it's just, the lore runs so deep. I'm so happy for her. I cannot wait to watch it because it comes out tomorrow night. By the time that this comes out, it would have already been, old news. You guys have probably already seen it if you care, but it hasn't come out yet. So I'm excited to watch that tomorrow night at 7:00. I will be tuned in. I'm very excited to hear this album. She didn't say when it comes out, but they did say it'll ship. The vinyls, the pre-order vinyls will ship before October 13th, which pretty sure it's her birthday. And so, it has to be before then. So I don't know. Also, in other big news, I'm like, this does not matter as much at all, but we did hit 40K, guys. If you guys have listened to this podcast or watched my vlogs for the last 2 months, I've been saying I'm going to do a 40K giveaway. Finally, we did it, guys. We hit 40K. I'm so excited. So humbled and honored, and just, I don't know. I put a Instagram story up about this, but it's not that I focus on numbers or I am happier when I get this number or not, or at least I try to be pretty indifferent, but I do have goals, and I set goals for myself just to kind of check in to see how I'm doing. And this has been a goal of mine for a really long time. So I was so happy to see that. And I was so happy to finally announce the giveaway. I announced it yesterday. Her name is Marley. I believe it's Marley Davis. So girl, check your front doorstep in about a week or so. You're going to get a big package of all my favorites. So I'm very excited to give that away. And speaking of, I do need to send all of that out today. I'm trying to decide what the best way to do that is. I think it's just going to be to send directly to her house, but I'm going to a coffee shop after this to work so I can focus. Because you guys, Darian, I think I talked about this last week, but he has been a busy guy. He's had a lot going on, and he has been traveling a lot, doing lots of interviews, going to different schools and whatever else. And he'll talk more about that on his own time and schedule and platforms. But lots of exciting things and lots of blessings, but it has been a lot. Last week specifically, he went to 3 different states within the week, and I also had to work and balance having the kids, and I don't know. It was just, last week was a long week, but he is here for the most part this week. I don't think that he's going anywhere. And a lot of times he has only a 4-day lead time of when he'll be able to know when he's supposed to go. And even last week, I think it was Friday morning, and they were like, he almost had to fly to Miami that night. And I was like, okay, no, I can't be doing this. Let me know morning of that you're going to be gone that night. It's too much. He ended up not having to go because they worked something else out. But I was like, this is just a lot. But this week we have a lot more time together, which is nice. And I feel like I'm actually getting back into a nice routine. Soft 30 has been going really well. I feel like that's helped keep me on track with the routine a little bit, where I've been doing half a gallon of water, eating 80-20, reading every day, vitamins every day, and moving my body 4 times a week. And last week was my first official week, and I did it, guys. I did it. Now, was I like chugging water last minute every day? A little bit. I was holding on for dear life because Darian was gone, but it was a success, my very first week. And now we're on to week 2. I already worked out yesterday, so that was good. Ugh, yesterday I was slacking so hard. I had one of those days where I finally had like a, not like day to myself, but hours to myself. And I was just like, I think I just have to like raw. And I didn't raw. I was working in bed, and like reading in bed, and I was still doing stuff, but I just couldn't get out of bed. Like I was like, I have my cup of coffee next to me. I just need to work in bed. But then that turned into like me just being lazy all day. And then whenever it was time for me to have the kids, I was like, did I even get anything done today? Like I feel so blah. And I realized I can't do that. And that's why I work from coffee shops, because I'm like, otherwise I end up feeling like I didn't do anything. So yesterday was blah, but I ended up working out during the kids' bedtime. Darian did bedtime, and I ended up going on a run and doing a little garage workout since I cleaned my garage, and it was so much work and I was so sore, but it looks amazing. And I'm so proud of myself for that. That was a lot. But now I just go in my garage and I just want to look at it, because I'm like, wow, there's actually space to breathe and move. And now I can work out in my garage. So amazing. Because I also just remembered yesterday I was supposed to go to the gym at 4:10, and that's just when the workout class started. That was kind of random. But and then I looked outside and it was actually monsooning. And I don't know about y'all, but like I can't go out in that weather. Like if it's something that I can cancel on, I'm gonna cancel if it's doing all that, because I can't deal with that. But another thing that I am very excited about is that 2 of my best friends finally announced that they're pregnant, because I've been keeping this secret in for both of them for quite some time. I've known that Savannah is pregnant for a long time. I've known that Mackenzie's pregnant for quite some time as well. And now they both announced, they both did their announcements. And so I'm free. I am free. Also, another one of my friends, Madison, was pregnant too. So I was keeping her secret. I was like, bro, there's too many secrets inside my soul. Madison announced like a little while ago, so that's been off my chest for a while, but it's finally out and about. I'm so excited. I just know obviously what it's like being a parent, and like what a blessing it is. So knowing that they're stepping into that, specifically Mackenzie and Brandon, because I know with Savannah it's their 4th, so they've been stepped into that even before me. But I'm so excited for them, because they're just amazing parents already. And so the fact that they get to bring another blessing. Also, I can't even get into this, but people on the internet are so weird sometimes. Like them announcing that they're having a 4th baby, and they're like, get off of her, get off of him. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wait, 1, they're a happy married couple. 2, I've seen it firsthand for a while, how good and attentive parents they are. And it's just funny because some people are like, you can't have 4 kids and be able to give them blah, 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 blah. And it's like, who are you to say? You don't know. You don't know. I've watched them be parents in real life. You just watch it on the internet. And I don't know. I'm just like, you don't even see even a tiny portion of their parenting life. Like you see maybe 1%. They're such good parents. And then for Mackenzie and Brandon, I'm like, I just know that they're going to be such good parents. And just me knowing how this is just going to like form them, and they're going to be able to see the joys of parenthood makes me so excited. And so, yeah, I'm very excited for everyone. And who knows the other secrets I'm keeping, guys? Maybe in a month or so, I'll be able to tell you more secrets. Maybe not. I feel like I always have something inside that I'm holding out for somebody else. One thing that I, as a friend, am good at, let me tell you, I'm going to keep your secret. You don't have to worry about me blabbing your secret to anybody. if you're like, don't tell anybody, my lips are sealed. And all my friends know that too, because they'll try to get stuff out of me. And I'm like, can't tell a soul. And so, yeah, I am happy. I feel a little bit freer now, because anytime like Mackenzie got brought up, Santa got brought up, like I was just like, I just felt like I was hiding something, but it's out. It's about. I was on Instagram this morning, and one of my friends posted a story. She's recently postpartum, and it kind of ties into like something that I was thinking about talking about today. And she was sharing how she's just having a little bit of a hard time postpartum. Just like, it's a lot of emotions, and yeah, hormonally, it's a lot. But even just like, your life is changing, your marriage is changing, life just changes. It's natural. And some people do better with the change. Some people, it's a little bit harder. It doesn't make it any less of a blessing. It's just the facts. And she was just talking about how she was in a coffee shop, and her husband walked away. And also she shared this like on her public story. I'm not like spilling anyone's beans. Is that a saying? Spill your beans. Okay. I think that's a saying. Anyway, but her husband and her son were walking around or something, and she just started crying at the coffee shop. Like she just was just like, I just feel overwhelmed. I got overwhelmed with sadness and like dread. And another thing she shared was that sorry, I'm kind of jumping ahead. Let me finish. So she starts crying, and her husband walks over, and he's just like, it's okay, like trying to console her. And then someone else, she also is a content creator, so she's like well known in her area, but someone walked up to her and just put her hand on her shoulder and was like, hey, I'm not trying to be weird, but I know who you are, and I would love to pray for you. Like, are you open to that? And she was like, yes. And she said that she just prayed this most beautiful, comforting prayer, and she just felt like so seen by God in that moment. And I got reminded of something that I wanted to talk about this morning, of living in your gifts. I think something that I really struggled with for a long time, and am still currently walking through, because I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about it, but just the pressure of feeling like, am I doing anything? Am I in the right place at the right time? I don't know. Like, am I actually being obedient and things like that? I really struggled with that for a while, because I would just have these intrusive thoughts of like, when I was spending time with God, like, okay, I'm spending time with God, like, I repent for this, or talk, just having open conversation with him. And then randomly I'd be like, what if he asked you to move to Africa? And I'm like, I don't want to move to Africa. And then I would get all this guilt, because I'm like, God, am I like not surrendered to you because I don't want to move to Africa, or like whatever? And I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but sometimes I just felt like, okay, well, if I wasn't in ministry, if I wasn't like serving kids in Africa, or doing ministry in Afghanistan, or like whatever it is, then I wasn't actually doing like what I was called to do. And I don't know, again, I don't know if this is relatable at all. Darian says that other people feel this way, but sometimes I'm like, I do feel a little like I am alone in this. Not alone, but I think I just put too much pressure on it, or I put God in a box and whatever. And I think something that I'm learning is that I'm using this story as an example, because that woman was living in her purpose of that day, just going to a coffee shop and being herself, if that makes sense. And don't get me wrong, the Bible talks about dying to yourself, and also just like being surrendered. And the Lord's Prayer, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, and also your will be done, not mine. But at the same time, he also can use you where you are. And sometimes that's like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I went to have a coffee out, and I can still live in my purpose in that moment. Like, I saw a woman crying, and I felt led to go and pray for her. And that was her living in her purpose of that day. And it helped my friend feel so seen and heard in that moment. And I think sometimes we put God in this box where it's like, oh, we have to be doing this thing, or, oh, we have to quit our job. And okay, maybe sometimes that is the case. And like, he is going to call you to go to Africa or whatever. But I truly think that most of the time when you surrender your life to God, let me just say it's one step at a time. I feel like we've talked about this for the last 2 episodes of the Proverbs 3, 5-6, I think, verse, where it talks about how acknowledge him in all your ways and he will guide your steps. And it really is one step at a time with him. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to give my life to Christ and okay, I confess that Jesus is Lord and I really do believe that Jesus is who he says he is. And so I want to give my life to him. Then I'm going to have to go move to Africa and he's going to like ruin my life. I just don't think that that is the case. And then also Darian brought this case up to me as well, where also I also want to just preface these episodes because I said last week, I'm like, I was never intending this to be a Christian podcast. That's still the case. And I'm not like a teacher by any means or a pastor. I really am just like talking about like just how at the beginning of this episode, I was just talking about like Taylor Swift or whatever, like whatever's happening in the world and in my life. That's what I'm doing here. I'm not a professional and I'm not a pastor and I don't want you guys to think that that's what I'm trying to be or like I'm whatever. I think that's a gift. That's a spiritual gift that I am not claiming to have. I am just speaking about what I'm learning right now. Anyway, back to what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh, you think he's going to blow up your life and he's going to ruin this or he's going to ruin that. And sure, he's probably going to ask you to, he might convict you about not sleeping with your boyfriend or whatever it is, but just take one step at a time with him. People get so intimidated and turned off by the thought of giving their life to Christ because they think like God wants to ruin their life. No, he wants to give you a bench joy. And I also talked about this too before and in my vlog this week where it's like, I felt like if I was so intimidated to like really fully surrender to God and be open to what he's called me to do because I felt like I was going to be miserable kind of. And nowhere in the Bible does it say that. Now, again, dying to yourself doesn't sound like an amazing thing. Like, oh, do I want to die to myself? No, I actually probably want to do what I want to do. But it's so funny how the more that you do that and the more you allow God to speak to you, the more you allow God to love you and the more that you just focus on Jesus, it doesn't feel like dying to yourself. Like it feels like I'm coming into more of myself. Like I feel more creative than I've ever felt. I feel more like I'm living in my purpose more than ever. And it's funny because you hear these people that are like, I was called to Africa and whatever. And it's like, so not that it was like, oh, I wanted to go move to Africa, but it also felt like I know God called me. So I had this peace. And the reason why I never had that peace when I thought about God calling me to Africa is because God didn't call me to Africa. Hello. And so it's like, if God is calling you to do something, perfect love casts out all fear. That's scripture. And what a beautiful thing. Perfect love casts out all fear. Like when I think of that verse, I'm like, what an intentional, sweet verse that his perfect love casts out. We don't ever have to fear anything. And when he calls you to do something, it's not going to make you confused because he's not a God of confusion. That's another verse. And he also is not a God of anxiousness. And you can cast all anxiety on him. And whenever he calls you to do something, I'm not saying that it's not going to feel like it's going to feel like this perfect thing, or you're not going to have to work through like, God, I really do want to sleep with my boyfriend or whatever it is. That's a kind of crazy example. Sorry. But like, I do want to gossip. There are times that I'm like in a social setting and I'm like, I really want to say something. And it does feel like I'm dying to myself, but it's not this thing where I'm like, God, you're trying to ruin my life. Like, I know it's for the betterment. Is betterment a word? Yes. I love when I use the word right. It's for the betterment of us. And there is a reason why the Bible is the way it is. And I want you guys to start testing that, because the beauty of the Bible is that the more you dig into it, the more beauty you get out of it. I'm not saying that sometimes it's not confusing. I remember reading certain parts of the Bible when I was doing a Bible plan, and I was like, respectfully, and God knows my heart in this, what's going on? I'm bored and I don't understand any of this. And I would just read certain, like, I don't know, passages. I'd just be like, I'm really confused. This feels like one big like blob of confusion. And then I would look into it, and a lot of scripture leads to other scripture, especially like New Testament, you can look back on the Old Testament of things that they like prophesied about that ended up happening in the New Testament. I hope I'm not losing you guys here. I hope this is making sense. But the Bible, whenever you dig into it, I think more people are scared to dig into it because they're scared to find out, like, what if this is not true? What if I don't align with this? What if whatever? And it's like, I used to feel that way too. And the more that I've learned about the Bible, the more beauty that comes out of it. And the more I'm like, God is so loving. God is so amazing. Everything that he did had a purpose, and he fulfilled everything. And I didn't even really mean to talk about this today, but basically I'm just saying, like, you don't have to be scared of digging into the Bible. And there are going to be times where you're confused, but there's so many different things and resources that can help you learn, and you just don't have to be scared of it. I know it's a big book and that it has like a lot going on in there, but there is a reason and an answer for everything. And it all leads to Jesus being true and beautiful. And anyway, I hope that makes sense. That was a tangent I didn't really mean to go on. But another example that I saw, I was listening to a podcast with Philip Anthony. He's a pastor, and it was a Girls Gone Bible podcast that I wanted to listen to with him on it. And he was talking about how he really has a crazy testimony, and he was sitting on his bathroom floor after a long day, and he just felt very hopeless. And he was, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, I think I'm allowed to say this, whatever. He was about to commit suicide. He had a gun in his hand, and he had a hair braider. He had braids back then. I guess now he doesn't have braids. He's kind of bald. Not bald, but he just is like has a low fade. And he had braids, and he had a braider who was a Christian, and he knew she was a Christian, whatever. And he had a gun in his hand about to commit suicide, had a bottle of whiskey in his hand, and she came and walked through the door in that moment and just sat with him on the bathroom floor. And something that was crazy to me is I'm like, people think that in order to live in your purpose, you have to, like, at least for me, I felt like, oh my gosh, like, I can't have this job. I can't have this. I mean, and again, I don't know what God's calling you to do. Maybe he is calling you to step away from your job or whatever. I'm not here to say that. That is for you and the Lord to sit down and have conversations and learn his voice and learn to trust the peace that washes over you when he asks you to do something. But for me, what I'm learning is he can even use somebody that is a hair braider. She was just, I mean, he said that he hasn't seen her since, and I don't know, he hasn't seen her since, but he's never been able to tell her that story of like how crazy that was or whatever, because he moved away or I don't remember the rest of the story, but I just know that she doesn't really know how crazy that was. But the fact that she probably was just at home and she just heard the Holy Spirit tell her, like, hey, you need to go check up on that Philip guy who you do his braids. And then she walked in, he was about to commit suicide, and she stopped him from doing that. And they said that they didn't speak, he said they didn't speak a word to each other, and she just sat on the bathroom floor and held him while he cried. And then that was that. And now he is a pastor and blesses so many people, and so many people have come to know Christ because of him. And it's like, that's why it's so important. The point that I'm trying to get to is that's why it's so important for us to be living in our gifts, not trying to live in somebody else's gifts or trying to manifest gifts that we don't have or trying to form ourselves to be into somebody that we're not. Like, truly living in who we are and allowing God to speak to who we are and actually listening to his voice, because I want to be that kind of person where, okay, I'm sitting at home and I just hear, hey, call your friend. She's having a hard day. Hey, check up on so-and-so because they are dealing with this, and this, whatever. Like, I want to be that friend that's like, hey, I was just listening to God and I felt like he was telling me to call you. And they're like, wow, I was just asking God to send me a sign, or I was just asking, like, I want to be that for people. And all you have to do, the only thing that's going to equip you to do that is listening to God and living in your gifts. Me and my friend Ashley actually were talking about this last night on the phone. She was talking about how she's learning her different spiritual gifts. And she was like, you need to look into your spiritual gifts and actually lean into that. Cause she was like, I really do believe you have the gift of encouragement. And I was doing a little bit of research on gifts last night, and I don't really know enough about it to talk about it. So I'm not going to, but look into your spiritual gifts and actually start leading into that. And there actually is a verse that I pulled up that I want to talk about with spiritual gifts. Maybe I'll talk about that next week if you guys care to listen to that. But I had a verse pulled up because I wanted to share it as far as like what I'm talking about, which is like living in who you are and whatever. Sorry, one second. Okay, 2 Timothy 1, 6-7. Fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you. For God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. That's actually not the one I want to talk about, but maybe that was for someone. Let me see. Hold on. I had this pulled up. Oh, it's because I didn't scroll up high enough. This is the one. 1 Peter 4, 10-11. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. And then Romans 12, 6-8, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy. If serving, then serve. If teaching, then teach. Pretty simple there. It's like the more that you lean into who you are in Jesus, he's going to share with you what your gifts are, and then you could use them to serve him and serve others, and in turn it blesses you. And I don't know who that was for, but basically I'm just saying that it's important for us to just listen to God. There's nothing to be scared of. Perfect love casts off fear, and he gives us perfect love. We don't have to live in fear and anxiety of he's going to ruin my life and whatever. Like at the end of the day, if God calls you to do something, there's peace that comes with that. And I remember having such a hard time with that with OCD because which if you guys feel like you struggle with those intrusive thoughts and just like overthinking and all of that, I did a podcast episode called It's Not a Gut Feeling a few months back. And it was really hard for me to record, honestly, because I was like, this is still stuff that I still walk through, but I hope that it helps people. And to this day, that was by far the most response I've ever gotten from a podcast episode. So if you guys struggle with that, go back and listen to that. But it's something I really struggled with because I felt like, well, if you don't give anxiety and you don't give fear, then why am I feeling this anxiety and fear? Oh, it's because those thoughts aren't from God. And if God calls you to something, he will help you walk through it and he will give you peace. And I'm not saying there are not times that you have to pray and ask for peace. God, if this is from you, give me peace. But there's also so many times where I was like, God, if I'm really not supposed to be with Darian, then take him away. And he was still there. And I would still have these thoughts. What if he cheats on you? What if? And it would make me crazy. And I was like, okay, clearly God is not giving me these thoughts to give me a quote unquote warning, or else Darren would be taken away, or else I would feel peace about leaving. And I never did. But it was just these anxiety thoughts that like the enemy was feeding me. And I was grasping onto and just allowing him to run amok, run amok in my mind. And I was just like, whatever. So that's how I knew that it wasn't from God. And I was like, I just know that now the more I walk with him, I realize that there is a peace, because there are things that I don't want to do, aka there are times I don't want to forgive somebody and it's really hard to forgive them. There are times that I don't want to give money away, that God has called me to give money away. And maybe it's something that I don't want to do, but I have a peace about it that I'm like, I just know this is from God. And it's almost like just like swallowing my pride and dying to myself. But it's not this anxiety, fear-driven thing, if that makes sense. I pray to God that this made sense to somebody, because I know I just rant on a lot of rants. But I hope you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. Walk with God. There's not fear and anxiety that goes with that. And also, like, if you listen to this podcast and you're not sure about God, I just want to ask you to take one step at a time. And if that's anything that you hear from me today, just take one step at a time. What is the next thing? And also, if you guys want to listen to what actually is supposed to be like a Christian podcast, because I know this isn't like necessarily what I meant for it to be. My friend Lila that I told you guys about a while back, she has a podcast called Growing Through It. You can watch it on YouTube, and then it's kind of, I think it's on everything, but it's called Growing Through It podcast. So good. She definitely has the gift of teaching, because I mean, she knows so much about the Bible. She's so like educated and well-spoken. And so you guys go listen to that if you guys need another podcast that you guys want to learn more about God through. But anyway, Hope that made sense. Let's do a Mackenzie's Mindset of the day. If you guys don't know, Mackenzie's Mindset is a segment that I do at the end of all my podcast episodes where I give you guys my mindset on your questions or your scenarios. So let's get into today's Mackenzie's Mindset. Alrighty. The first, I'm actually only doing one because I got to go, unfortunately. But please do a Mackenzie's Mindset on dating a college athlete. I know you said that you wanted to be in communication a lot and Darian didn't feel that way. That's exactly how my boyfriend and I are. I don't want to feel overbearing and I need advice on being there for them in the busy time. Darian and I kind of talked about this one on the first few times he was on. I forget which episode it was, but I didn't really want to be in communication a lot. I just wanted to be in communication a normal amount. Now I think that there is a bit of understanding on your end where you have to understand they are a college athlete. They're in college. They have so much school. And then after school, they also have to be an athlete. That sounds obvious, but they basically have 2 full-time jobs. And then dating you is also a job. But a quote I've shared a ton is whenever Darian and I started talking and I realized like he wasn't really communicating in a way that I appreciated, I was like, hey, I know you have a lot on your plate, but I didn't ask to be on your plate. And so you do have to give me time and also make me feel loved in the way that you communicate. And so that is something that he had to work on, but that's also something that I had to work on too, where I was like, I don't understand his schedule. He basically works 2 full-time jobs. So there's an understanding, but also like he does eat. Okay. So while he eats, he can text you, thinking about you. I'm going to call you later tonight. Some kind of intention throughout the day where he does have at least 1 second that he can text you. Okay. So there's not an excuse for that. But also like, I think as far as being understanding, that's just something that you have to work on. And it's a balance between like, they also have to meet your needs and your desires in the relationship. And at the same time, you have to be understanding of like, he may not be able to give you everything that you want. So there has to be a compromise. Everything always boils down to compromise. So you have to ask yourself, like, am I willing to give up XYZ so that I can be understanding in this way? And if you're not, maybe you need to go find somebody that isn't as busy. And then for him, if he's not willing to give you that little bit of time, like maybe he's not ready for a relationship, because there does take sacrifice and intention whenever you are pursuing somebody. So that's my answer. Period. All right. Love you guys. Honestly, now that we hit 40K, I don't care if you subscribe. I'm just kidding. Subscribe if you listen. It's helpful for me and it helps other people find the podcast. And if you guys listen on Spotify and Apple, you guys can follow along there as well so that the episodes every week will pop up on your feed. I love you guys so much. I appreciate every single listen, every comment, any DM. I see them and I appreciate them. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week with a new episode of Not Everybody Needs a Podcast. Goodbye. Mwah.